The Mustang Mach E.
It just sounds like a Mustang that's made for the Scottish market, doesn't it?
Aye.
Mach E.
Do you consider yourself a Mustang fan?
I've liked them in the past. I'm not a massive aficionado, and I've owned a Camaro for a long time, so it shows you that I don't really have any great.
You have any allegiances?
I don't wear the badge with pride. No.
Okay, because the thing with this car is we're not really talking about the fact that it's an electric SUV. It's got a decent range, it's a decent price, it's got 4 doors. What we're talking about here is the fact that they've decided to slap a slightly Mustang-esque front end and some rear lights and a Mustang badge on it.
Yeah, I might surprise you now and defend this somewhat.
All right, so marketing genius or dropping the ball massively?
I think it's a clever gamble. So I think the Ford Motor Company is a much sharper organisation than most car companies. They're results driven. Their years of not knowing whether they had an F1 team or not on the balance sheet are gone. Mm-hmm. And they've sat down in a room and they've said, right, simple question. If we make this slightly Tesla-y tall thing have a Mustang grille, do we make it so much more appealing to the buying public and get so many people to sign up and put deposit on it that it's worth disenfranchising all of these sad old spitters that are dying quite quickly that used to love the Mustang? And they've come back with a very clear answer, and that is it's worth the gamble. And I think they're probably right. Because are you going to not buy, if you're Mr. Mustang or Mrs. Mustang, you're not going to buy a Mustang because of that awkward looking thing on stilts? No, you're not.
Yeah.
So I think it's probably quite a wise
Because the
gamble.
bottom line to most people's arguments is, calm down, you can still buy a Mustang.
Yeah. It's like when the Cayenne came out and all that stuff. You know, we've been through these things. It's very basic arguments. But what's interesting is that Ford have quite clearly identified the fact that Teslas have a sort of identity issue. They're faceless.
Yeah.
You're just presented with basically a sort of a bar of soap face. Mm-hmm. It's a shape. Mm-hmm. And because it doesn't need any air intakes, you realise that air intakes actually, they have a dual purpose.
They give it the eyes and the mouth.
They give you the facial expressions. They anthropomorphise the vehicle, don't they?
Good word.
So actually, you're better off choosing a face. And if you're Ford, you'd choose that and not a Fiesta, wouldn't you? So I think it makes sense.
But the issue is right now that Ford has got a bit of recent history, hasn't it? Because they've slapped the Puma badge, which is a beloved little.
Well, it's to you and I, but a lot of people don't know what a Puma is.
Yeah, but it's the fact that it's
the
not
fact
even
they owned
related to that old car. It's a small SUV, and they've just called it.
But
a Puma.
let's be pragmatic about it. The Puma's been gone a long time, and it was great, but it didn't become iconic globally. It was loved by people like you and I. Mm-hmm. And if you're Ford and you're sitting down in one of those clinics where you've got to find a new name, and you want to call it this, but you find out that means ring piece in the upper Volta, so you can't call it that. You then go, well, hang on a minute, we own the word Puma. We don't make a Puma anymore. Well, we might upset a few people from the Ford Racing Puma Owners Club, but frankly, they'll get over it.
Yeah.
Away you go. It makes sense.
There'll be a pie chart somewhere, won't there?
Yeah.
Amount of people we're going to piss off versus money.
Let's face it. When it comes to misappropriating old names, Porsche win hands down. The Cayman R, when that was 2010, 2009, 2010 car, was basically it had door pulls rather than door handles, and they resurrected the R name for the most spectacular road car they ever made, the 911R, and also the 718 Boxster, which
they're now calling
a 4-cylinder hunk of shit that they tried to make some connection with a racing car from the early 60s, which still doesn't work. And they don't sell them, and they had to make a 6-cylinder version because we told them it was shit from the start.
And yet the new GT4 is still called a 718 but has 6 cylinders.
Yeah, they were going to call it and you wait for it, because I think you'll find that when all Boxers and Caymans go 6 cylinders next year, it's going to be the 718/6 to pay homage to the 914, which when it became 6 cylinders was the 914/6.
And of course they've slapped turbo on the Taycan, which is
that doesn't worry me as much as it worries you.
I'm not worried about it. I got over it in about 10 minutes.
But the turbo is nomenclature that just gives them some kind of hierarchy in their range. Like the fastest one is always a Turbo S, and the least one's always a 4 or 4S. I get that. That makes sense, because those badges for me don't resonate the way particular motorsport badges do. Anyhow, I love that. It just shows we start out talking about a Ford, and somehow I get it onto Porsche.
Nice. Final question. If you could own any Mustang, bringing it back to the Mustang, any Mustang from over the years, what would it be?
What was the Boss they did a few years ago, the track pack? Was it a Boss
302?
Boss 302 would be the one. Because I think the American cars were at their best when you have a normally aspirated V8 and then they put some track bits on them. So effectively they're equivalent of a Z28 Camaro. I've driven all the fancy ones that are the GT500.
GT350R.
I've driven all that. GT350R didn't work for me at all because that was a car they loved in America because it gave them a very European feeling engine. It's a flat plane crank revs to 8.5 grand. But that felt wrong to me. I want a Mustang to feel like a muscle car. They just felt like
a muscle car pretending to be an Italian.
It felt like someone had bolted a 355 engine into a Mustang as a project to me. So I didn't really get that. And the base car and the current Bullet is a nice car. Go back through the history of them. Some of the early 70s cars are quite like actually. I think they look quite cool. But if you go back further into the 60s, you know, the original pony cars, if you watch Bullet, you're either a Mustang man or you're a Charger man, and I'm very much a Charger man. So, the modern ones probably appeal more.